They say betrayal doesn't kill you, it teaches you how to kill yourself slowly. For June, that lesson began the moment she walked into her living room and saw the impossible. Samantha, the woman she trusted like a sister, kissing Nathan, the man she loved more than life itself. What followed wasn't just heartbreak, it was transformation. Love curdled into fury, trust twisted into manipulation, and reason drowned beneath the weight of rage. Beneath the quiet surface of her calm exterior, something inside June cracked open, something ruthless, calculating, and vengeful. This is not a story about infidelity. It's about the death of faith, the rebirth of obsession, and the horrifying power of a wounded mind that refuses to stay broken. June once believed that some things in life were eternal: trust, love, and loyalty. She built her entire world around those pillars, convinced that if she held them tightly enough, everything else would fall into place. But life doesn't honor such beliefs. It waits for the perfect moment to strike, to crush the foundations people build their hearts upon. For June, that moment came on an ordinary afternoon, beneath the quiet hum of familiarity, in the house she had decorated with love and certainty. The sound came first, faint laughter, soft, intimate, the kind that carries no threat until it does. When she stepped closer to the living room, the world stopped. Samantha, the woman she had loved like a sister, was leaning over Nathan, the man she loved, their lips pressed together on the gray sofa bathed in late afternoon light. The sight was not merely betrayal, it was annihilation. Every fiber of her being fractured in that single moment. She froze where she stood, but her mind exploded in flashes of memory: Samantha's laughter over wine, Nathan's insistence that Samantha was only a friend, the glances that lingered too long but which she had dismissed because she trusted them both. Those memories now formed a perfect map of deceit, every moment a red pin marking her foolishness. Part of her wanted to scream, to destroy the room, to rip away the illusion that had fooled her for so long. But another part, the colder, more dangerous part, whispered that emotions were for the weak. And she would not be weak again. She walked away without a sound. Her legs trembled, but her face was expressionless. The tears that should have come never did. Instead, a quiet, suffocating rage began to bloom inside her chest. It was not the kind of fury that burns fast, it was the kind that seeps into the bones, slow and deliberate, the kind that changes a person forever. Samantha had been like family. Once fragile and dependent, she had leaned on June for everything: advice, money, purpose. June had given her everything: friendship, protection, and even the confidence to stand on her own. But Samantha had used that strength to stab her benefactor in the back. She was no victim of circumstance, she was an opportunist, a woman who saw what she wanted and learned how to take it. Love was never the goal. Power was. Nathan, on the other hand, was not cruel, just cowardly. He was the kind of man who thrived on affection but feared accountability. June had given him stability, Samantha gave him adoration. He craved both, but deserved neither. He called it confusion, June knew it was cowardice. He wanted to be loved by everyone but never wanted to face what that kind of love costs. June understood them both perfectly, and that was what made her anger so sharp. Understanding is the cruelest form of pain, it denies the luxury of ignorance. Her heartbreak transformed into a quiet hunger for control. She began to plan, not to hurt them physically, but to make them unravel from within. She would turn their own fears against them. She collected messages, photos, recordings, the threads of their secret. Then she began to weave them into a tapestry of paranoia. Nathan started to suspect Samantha, he noticed her absences, her whispers, the way she clutched her phone. Samantha felt it too, his distance, his tension, the way his eyes no longer looked at her with affection but with doubt. The trust between them decayed like spoiled fruit, and June was the silent gardener, watering the rot. But as the days passed, June began to change in ways she didn't anticipate. The darkness she had nurtured started to feed on her. She thought she was in control, but she was merely another piece of the chaos she had created. The nights grew longer. She heard Samantha's laughter in the walls, felt Nathan's breath behind her shoulder. She wasn't sure if it was guilt or madness, but it was alive inside her now. Then one morning, Samantha appeared at her door, pale, broken, trembling. She said Nathan had left, taking all their shared money. June didn't speak. She only looked at her, watching the woman collapse under the weight of her own lies. There was no satisfaction in her victory, only an eerie calm, the kind that comes after a storm has destroyed everything in its path. Days later, Nathan was found in a rundown motel, drunk and disoriented, clutching a piece of paper that said only, "I don't know who I am anymore." The police called it a breakdown, but June knew better. It was justice, not divine or legal, but psychological. A man suffocated by his own deceit. Samantha disappeared soon after. Some said she fled abroad, others whispered she had taken her own life. June didn't care. She returned to her house, to the scene of the crime, not of their betrayal, but of her awakening. The gray sofa remained where it had always been, silent, innocent, mocking. She sat there in the dark, feeling a chill crawl up her spine. She had won, but victory had never felt so hollow. At night, she heard sounds again, laughter, soft whispers, the faint shift of fabric on leather. The sofa creaked as if two people still sat upon it, locked in their eternal kiss. June knew there was no one there, but sometimes she saw them, Samantha and Nathan, frozen in that same act of betrayal, their faces pale, their eyes lifeless. She realized then that she hadn't destroyed them. She had trapped them. And worse, she had trapped herself with them. Her revenge had succeeded, but it had stripped her of everything human. The madness seeped through her veins like smoke. She no longer knew whether she was avenging love or merely feeding the emptiness inside. The line between justice and obsession blurred until there was nothing left to separate them. When she looked in the mirror, she no longer saw June. She saw something hollow, something twisted, a creature born from betrayal and fueled by control. The reflection smiled back at her, and for the first time, she didn't recognize it. In the end, there were no victims left, no villains either. Samantha, Nathan, and June had all destroyed each other in their own ways, bound together by deceit, consumed by guilt, and erased by the same fire that once made them feel alive. In the weeks that followed, silence became June's only companion. The world outside continued to spin, indifferent to the chaos that had devoured her life. People forgot, the whispers faded, but inside her home, time refused to move. Every object, every corner of that living room was a reminder of the day everything ended, the laughter she once believed was love, the warmth that had turned into poison. She stopped opening the curtains. The light was too honest, too cruel. Darkness, she realized, was easier to live with, it didn't expose, it only concealed. June began to speak less and think more. The boundaries between thought and reality began to dissolve. Sometimes, she heard Samantha's laughter echoing faintly from the sofa. Other nights, she felt Nathan's presence standing behind her, breathing against her neck. At first, she told herself it was imagination, a trick of exhaustion, a symptom of guilt. But then the visions began to take shape. She saw them sitting together, whispering, laughing, touching, as if that moment had never ended. Only now, their faces were pale, lifeless, frozen in the memory she could never erase. She tried to cleanse the house, to burn the sheets, to repaint the walls, to sell the sofa, but the more she erased, the more it clung to her. The past was not inside the house, it was inside her. It pulsed beneath her skin, whispering that what she had done could never be undone. Revenge had promised her closure, but instead, it left her hollow, feeding on her silence like a parasite. On the last night before she vanished, the rain fell heavier than it had in years. Neighbors said they saw a light flickering through her window, but no one dared to check. Inside, June stood before the mirror, staring at her reflection. She didn't see herself anymore. Her face was calm, her eyes empty, as if she had finally accepted that she no longer belonged to the world she once tried to control. The reflection tilted its head, and for a moment, June thought she saw Samantha's smile flicker back at her. When the morning came, the house was quiet. The sofa was gone, the mirror cracked, and June had disappeared without a trace. Some said she left the city. Others claimed she couldn't bear the weight of her sins any longer. But those who passed by her house swore that at night, when the wind blew through the open windows, you could still hear the faint sound of laughter, a woman's laughter, echoing softly, as if mocking the ghosts she left behind. Because in the end, June didn't destroy Samantha or Nathan. She became them, their guilt, their deceit, their madness. And the greatest punishment of all was not losing them, but becoming the sum of everything she hated.